for that. Now, a cool head under pressure. Some say it's priceless. The ability to make the right call at the right time while emotions are high, that's what makes or breaks careers, whether on the football field, in the record studio, or in the boardroom. Next, we welcome to the stage two people who are true experts on what it takes to keep your eyes on the prize under pressure. Please welcome to the stage, in conversation with Leah Hunter, NFL Hall of Famer Terrell Owens and music superstar Akon.
Right. Hi. Woo. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. These lovely gentlemen you know very well, and the nature of the conversation here is one that I think will be of interest to everyone in the audience, regardless of whether you are big business, small business, or entrepreneurship. It is desire and dedication.
Yeah.
Also, potentially discipline. It's a question of, like they've managed to do remarkable things in their careers, and the question really is how you did it. So you've evolved many times to get to where you are now. Will you tell us about one of them and how you had to level up in order to make it happen?
Is that for me or for Tor?
That's for both of you.
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I think for me
But make sure you're yelling, because it's loud in
can
here.
everybody hear me? I don't know if I can't hear myself.
Let me go first while you fix Terrell's mic.
Yeah.
How you guys doing out there? Good? That's wonderful. With me, it was a little different because I kind of was pushed to be successful, period. My earlier days, I was into some things that quite was fruitful, but just on the wrong side of the law. When I got locked up, that became my turning point. I was in this cell with an older gentleman who was actually going into life, and he was transitioning from DeKalb County in Atlanta to California on death row. And he used to always see me writing songs and doing stuff in the cell, and he looked at me, he said, man, listen, if you put a fraction of energy into a trade, into your talent, than you did in the streets, there's no way that you cannot be successful. And I thought about that, and that sunk into me. So ultimately from there, I decided to create a 10-year goal of where I want to be in the next 10 years. And I had this big goal that I want to work with Michael Jackson. Now, mind you, as a convicted felon, talking about they're going to work with Michael Jackson is unheard of. First of all, by the time they do due diligence on me, they're not going to let me get anywhere close to this man. But I said, I'm going to aim for the stars, and I'll hopefully reach the sky. And sure enough, following those goals and those steps, in 5 years, I was able to achieve that. So ultimately, basically, my theory is you have to have a set direction and a destination to actually have to go after, because that destination is going to create that map to get to that point, and it's going to force you to have to make that decision to make it happen.
Yeah. I don't know if is my mic working now?
We can hear you.
Okay,
a little better.
Cool.
You still have to project.
Okay, cool. I think to kind of piggyback with what he said, I think in order for me to get to ABC, I think hard work, there's no substitute for hard work. And I think in order for me to get to ABC, there were things that I necessarily had to do. I had a lot of, when I came out of high school, I wasn't highly recruited. I was always looked at as having potential. But those things are some of the things that motivated me. I think a lot of people out here, we face, certain obstacles. And one of those obstacles is fear. It's okay to fear. Those are some of the things that made me accept the challenge. When you become who you are at the end of the day, that's what makes the end result so great. So in order to, I had to look back on the last 4 or 5 years when I was eligible for the Hall of Fame. And I looked up and I'm like, man, I'm mentioned in the same breath as some of the greatest to ever play the game. When I left Alexander City, Alabama, and went to UT Chattanooga, I had no idea that I was going to play beyond the collegiate level. That was never any idea that I was going to play football professionally or make a living, doing it. But when I look back on my career, I sat in a house and I'm like, man, even if I didn't make the Hall of Fame, I'm being considered as one of the greatest that have ever played the game. There's
Absolutely.
been 25,000 plus athletes that have played National Football League. I was inducted last year, number 317. So, thank you. And so when I look back on my career, she mentioned at the opening of this panel about 3 Ds. She mentioned 2 of those. When I look back on my career, I started out and I thought about my desire, my dedication, and one of those that she left out was discipline. Everybody in this room has a desire to be or do something in life. That's why you're possibly here. In order to get to that next level, to separate yourself from your peers, you have to dedicate yourself.
Absolutely.
You have to discipline yourself. You have to do something that others wouldn't do or won't do. Me, I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a smoker. I didn't do any of those things. Number one, because that's how I was raised. Yeah. But I realized there were guys in that locker room when I was drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, such as Jerry Rice, Steve Young, Merton Hanks. These guys, they set barometers before me that I didn't know that I could reach. But once I got a taste of what that success was like, it was contagious. It was almost an addiction. And so that's what you have to do. You have to dedicate yourself, and you have to couple it with your desire. In order to get to that next level, there's average people, there's good people, and there are great people. In order to get to that next level, you think about basketball, you think about the Kawhi Leonards, you think about the LeBrons, the Michael Jordans, the Steph Currys. These are guys that they were into a sport. They had potential. They're projected to be stars, but talent can only take you so far.
Absolutely.
But in order to get to that next level, to separate yourself from being good and go to great, that's where that level of discipline has to be applied.
Well,
Absolutely.
It's discipline, and you mentioned getting rid of fear. It's courage.
Absolutely.
And I have a question for both of you to that end, because yeah, you've worked with Michael Jackson, you've also worked with Rihanna, you've worked with Gwen Stefani, you've worked with everybody. How many of those opportunities came from having the courage to straight up ask for them? And this is also for you. How many of the opportunities that have come to you in life have been like, I raise my hand, I want that, versus them just coming?
Well, I think me would, the fear would actually play a role when I decided to come outside of music. Because in music, it's not like you have the fear of asking, because in the music industry, you have to almost earn that right. Because it's almost like there's a level of popularity and relevance in music. When you get to a certain level, then that's when everybody wants to collaborate with you, because they want that opportunity to get, to be able to reach that fan base that you have. Whereas if you're coming from a music space, then you branch off to do something different. That's where it gets the waters get a little bit murky, because now they know you for a specific trade, and they can't really respect you in that light of outside of music until you prove yourself. So when I came and had a successful career in music, and I decided to get into the energy business, that's almost like Kim Kardashian going into the law business. You see how you laughed at that, right? But you got to understand, she came from a family that has a history of law. Her dad represented O.J. Simpson, you know what I mean? So, but you can never put lawyer and Kim Kardashian in the same sentence.
You don't want to separate the two. It's hard to separate the two.
It's hard, so you have to prove yourself. So entertainment is one of the hardest, fields to jump out of to get into something different that's not related. So I kind of got the same laugh when they said, okay, Akon is into energy now. So it was almost like I had to work triple times harder, educate myself, do the normal things that everybody wouldn't do. Then I also had the advantage of utilizing my way of how I market from the entertainment side and utilizing that marketing skill in the energy side. So I was able to, accelerate a lot faster than energy companies that's been around for 30, 40 years. We've accomplished things that they haven't accomplished in 50 years. We accomplished in 4 or 5 years. So it creates a different kind of mechanism and a different hunger for it because of the fact that you're coming in as the underdog. So that fear, you have to delete the fear. You got to come into anything you decide to do completely fearless. Because I always look at it from the standpoint of, okay, first of all, if it's meant for me, I'm going to get it. And if I work hard enough, nothing's going to stop me from getting to that point. And I've always been a very spiritual, God-fearing man, so I always felt that I was here for a purpose anyway. So I never thought that a person can dictate how far I go in life. So I always strive to how my heart feels and wherever my instincts take me. And if I believe in something, nothing stops me from getting to that point.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of just forward thinking, to be honest. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of just aligning yourself with forward thinking, understanding who you are and what you can provide and assist with different brands and companies out there.
Well, and you're forward thinking in different areas. Like, you're both known for different disciplines, but you're also entrepreneurs. Where else are you playing now that is in the entrepreneurial space? What else are you doing?
Like I said, I try to align myself with different companies and products that align with my lifestyle, you know, from a standpoint of fashion, health, wellness, fitness, things along those nature. And there are other opportunities out there depending on what comes across my desk that I may align myself with. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box. When I played, that was some of the things that I tried to do. I tried to think outside of the box. I thought about being an entertainer. You know, I wasn't fortunate to have a career like him, but you mentioned Michael Jackson. That was one of my childhood heroes, you know what I mean? So when I got on the football field, and I understand it's a barbaric sport, I wanted to basically entertain. I wanted to entertain my fan base, every stadium that I went to. And then after a few years, I realized at that time, I was establishing a brand for myself. And people started to know me not only for my touchdowns, but my celebrations. Those are things that I wanted to do. I wanted to basically engage with a lot of my fans out there. So again, you know, I think when you think about everybody's level of success, I think one key thing, or we talked backstage about a vision message. You can't think negative thoughts when you're trying to achieve positive results. And I think if you think that way, then you're not going to be able to optimize your performance, whatever it may be.
It's brilliant. Great advice. There's a saying, don't quit when you're tired, quit when you're done. My motto is don't quit at all, look at challenges and laugh. Will you speak to that in your own life? I know we talked about moving mountains and how you've done the impossible. Maybe you can start there and then...
Yes, I think I know I have a lot of fans here in Toronto, and I played football in the National Football League for 15 years. Most notably, I played for San Francisco 49ers and went on to play with Philly, Dallas, and a year each with Buffalo and Cincinnati. But I think one of the most telling moments in my career is when I played with Philadelphia Eagles. We went on to play in the Super Bowl, but prior to the Super Bowl run, mid-December, I had a horrific injury. I was dragged down from behind. I tore all the ligaments in my ankle, and I had a broken leg. I didn't know I had a broken leg till the next day when I went in for an MRI. So if you follow football, you know the football is in end of February or somewhere like that. And so the injury that I had sustained, it would have taken any normal person 3 to 4 months. And we spoke backstage when you thinking about believing in yourself. And some people have a belief in a higher being. I know me, I believe in God. And sometimes fear, it will make you do things that you sometimes would never think is possible. So long story short, I was able to play in the Super Bowl. I came back from that injury in 6.5 to 7 weeks. The doctor that I went to in Baltimore, leading up to the Super Bowl, I was rehabbing daily, day and night. I had people staying at my house, rehabbing me. I was sleeping in the hyperbaric chamber. I went to the facility on an everyday basis leading up to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl happens, but before the Super Bowl happened, I go down to get a checkup with Dr. Myerson in Baltimore. We had sent him videos of my progress throughout the course of the weeks. He was blown away at the progress that I had made. He said that there's no way that he would allow me, based on his diagnosis and his experience, to allow me to play in the Super Bowl. And so I wasn't medically cleared. I had to sign a waiver to play in the Super Bowl. But when you talk about moving mountains, when you talk about faith and you talk about believing in yourself, that was one of the things that I always did before stepping on the field every time that I began to perform. I believed in myself, number one, to perfect my craft. But when it came to that Super Bowl, I know that the Super Bowl is one of those games that you may never play again. There are guys that have played in the league that have never played in the Super Bowl. And there are guys like Tom Brady who's fortunate to go to a number of Super Bowls. So that, long story short, that was my only Super Bowl that I was able to play in. And I'm very fortunate to have been able to do that. But like I said, when you talk about moving mountains, the doctors, everybody across the country said that there was no way that I would have been able to play in that Super Bowl with the injury that I had sustained.
And you did. And he did. That was awesome. What's a mountain that you have moved?
My mountain is actually a little interesting. So this is the transition from music to, you could decide after I tell you the story. But I remember going to Africa, and I was in Sierra Leone. And we had sold out this stadium to do this huge concert that the people have been waiting forever for me to come out and perform. We're in the middle of the stadium, 75,000 people. I get into the first song, get into the second song, get into the third song. At this point, the crowd couldn't have been no hyper than I've never seen a crowd that excited. And the lights went out. So when there was a blackout in the country, the whole city had no electricity.
Wow.
So this is after the second song going into the third song. So, the crowd was calm for a second, but then after 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the lights didn't come back on. Riot broke out. I'm in Sierra Leone in the midst of 75,000 people, everybody going crazy, and it's dark. So you can imagine.
That's dark. You dark. I know how I look in the dark. You probably couldn't see nothing but teeth.
This is why I wear white everywhere I go now.
And I wear white shoes.
The lights ever go out,
You got glow.
you can find me. And mind you, I was wearing all black that day. So now I'm crawling through the crowd, trying to figure out a way to get out of that stadium, because the crowd is going nuts. Now mind you, these people have been saving up their money for weeks, months, some of these people longer than that just to get a ticket. And they never get to see the show. That's when I realized how crazy the electricity problem was in Africa. And I said, okay, I gotta do something about this. So I go to Senegal, which is not too far, and I meet with the president. I said, Mr. President, I wanna do something to help, with the energy poverty in Africa. I wanna do something about this, because now it's affecting me as well. I can't even have a concert without, the lights coming out. No problem. What are you thinking? I said, well, I wanna build a power plant. He's like, what? I said, yeah, a nuclear power plant. Now, mind you, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just hear on the news, nuclear power plants give light. So he's looking at me like, you know what? Yeah, if you can raise me $1 billion, I'll let you do it. So at this point, I'm like, cool, I know, some people and friends, that's some energy. I might go over my time, I hope y'all don't mind, but I gotta tell the story.
You got an extra minute, keep going.
All right, cool, I'm gonna make it fast. So I called my friends in Saudi, called my friends in the Middle East. Those guys are the king of energy, right? So I said, listen, my president is gonna give me the okay and the green light to put a power plant if I can come through with the money. He said, well, how much you gonna need? I said, $1 billion. And they're like, that's it? I said, yeah, that's it.
I need some of your friends.
Right? So they're like, are you sure they're gonna let you do this? I said, he gave me his word. All I need is an official letter. So they give me the official letter. If I get the green light, they will fund the project. So I go back to my president. I got great news. I got the funding for our power plant. And he's looking at me like, I know he didn't just pull this off. And I'm like, no, Mr. President, I got the partners. They're from the Middle East. They're going to put up the power plant. They just need an okay from you saying that we're going to do it. So he's like, okay, sit down, my son. Let's talk. I sit down. He said, listen, I understand what you're doing. I appreciate the pride for your country, but now you're entering a business that creates wars. And at the time, I didn't really understand what he was talking about. And I was like, he said, you know, I kind of spinned you on purpose because I never thought that you would actually come back with a proposal that would actually happen. But as my word, we can't do the power plant, but if you do anything sustainable, I will back you 100%. So now I'm heading to the airport completely upset because now I thought I was going to make $1 billion. And I can't do it. And as I'm going, I see this vendor on the side. He has this little lamp with a solar lamp with a solar panel attached to it. And I said to myself, shit, that's the solution. I can do solar. So then I started looking all over the place, checking the internet, doing my research, figuring out how solar works, where I can get it, who's the biggest suppliers, so and so, and it led me to China. I get to China, meet with the biggest solar manufacturer. Come to find out that they had invested billions of dollars into solar products and panels and resources for the United States, but then they raised a 200% tax on goods come from China, so they couldn't even use any of that stuff. So I said, you know what, perhaps I can use that for Africa. And they said, you know what, that'd be a great idea because we have all this inventory that we can't move. How much will you need? I said, $1 billion worth. They said, okay, cool, we'll give you a credit line of $1 billion if you can come back with a contract. So I go back to my president. I found another solution. He said, what is it? I said, I can now put solar in all the rural areas. I just need a contract to show the Chinese, and they will give me $1 billion credit line. He said, now that we can do. He gave me the letter, went back.
Mountain move.
Mountain move. I got the credit line, and that created Akon Lighting Africa, and from that, we just electrified 16 countries in all of Africa since then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one, we hit our time, and two, nothing could beat that story. So
not at
thank
all.
you for being here.
No, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
You got it.
Electrifying Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're out.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.